No, he's on it right here.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So these people scored because normally this is the woman came up to me and said, asked about that at being reserved. And I said, no, but it does get sent. And she said, not today.
Not today is right.
So look at a nice.
Oh yeah, that it couldn't be. It's like the handicap. I mean. Good morning and welcome to Pomona College Commencement. A couple of announcements. Ponchos are still available at each of the coffee stations. Please, only one per guest. In addition, Bridges Auditorium on the south side of the quad is open with a full-screen video of today's ceremony. If it gets uncomfortable, please join us in Little Bridges. Finally, when the ceremony starts, we ask you to take all umbrellas down as they block the view of the people behind you. Please be considerate and take your umbrellas down when the ceremony starts. Thank you very much.
We get back to the Yeah, drop.
As we gather together to mark this precious moment with the members of the Pomona College class of 2016, we pause to open our hearts to the source of life, whom we call by many names and many understandings. We acknowledge the accomplishments of our graduating students, welcoming them with both humility and joy into the long line of tradition of those who have walked before them, poised now to determine what kind of world is yet to be. Novelist, playwright, poet, and social critic James Baldwin wrote, "The paradox of education is precisely this. that as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which he is being educated. And then goes on to say, the world is before you, and you need not take it or leave it as it was when you came in. Spirit of the universe, today we celebrate and give thanks not only for the honing of our students' intellectual and critical abilities, but also for their courage to examine the society in which they are being educated, to question when there is injustice, to listen and to respond to the pain of others, to persist when it is difficult to move forward, and to uncover the inner resources that will be vital to the pursuit of a purposeful and meaningful life. On this auspicious morning, we are grateful to the people who supported our students on their path of learning, the family and friends who provided the foundations of love and endurance, and the students, faculty, administrators, alumni, and trustees who inspired, mentored, and guided them through challenges and uncertainties. At this moment of gratitude and joy, we also acknowledge the sadness for the end of this step on the journey, for things left undone, for friends about to part company, and for the ache we feel for those who are missing but who are always present in our hearts and minds. As we reflect on all that brings us to this pivotal time, we offer these words of hope and prayer. Holy One, may these graduates be constantly inspired by their Pomona education to consciously and bravely examine the world that is around them and determine if they will take it or leave it in a better way than when they came in. May they exercise civility and strength of character in a global community that is desperate for their ethical leadership and strive for equality among all humanity. May they have the courage to be different and to be true to their deepest spiritual values. May these graduates responsibly care for the earth and all of creation, and may the wisdom and compassion they have learned here guide them to use their intelligence and their hearts to create a world of enduring justice, loving kindness, and peace. Amen.
Good morning. On behalf of the trustees, faculty, and staff of Pomona College, and especially the members of the senior class who will receive their degrees today, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 123rd commencement exercises of Pomona College. On this occasion, I would like to extend particular thanks and appreciation to the family and friends of the class of 2016. You have provided the support and encouragement for the graduating seniors, bringing them to this turning point in their lives. Graduation from college represents a great moment of change. It is the culmination of many years of schooling, initially broad and generalized, becoming more focused with time. In your 4 years at Pomona College, I hope and trust that you have discovered and valued the goals of a liberal education. First, to think critically and creatively. Second, to communicate effectively in speech and writing. And third, to carry with you a lifelong joy and passion for learning. Commencement is a fresh start, a beginning of a new life outside these college walls, in which the abilities and skills that you have gained here are the added riches that you bear in trust for humankind. Each member of the graduating class of 2016 has fully met the high standards of Pomona College. Each has contributed in varied and wonderful ways to our community, in the classroom, through research projects, to campus life, and through service to those around us. At yesterday's Class Day Awards ceremony, we learned some of the ways in which members of this class have distinguished themselves. At commencement, which is above all a celebration of the academic accomplishments of our graduates, it has been traditional to take special notice of one of these awards, the Rena Gurley Archibald Prize, which is given to the member of the graduating class with the highest academic achievement. This year, the Rena Gurley Archibald High Scholarship Prize is awarded to Kieran Lewell Evans. The educational mission of this college relies critically on close collaboration between students and teachers. Pomona College faculty members are dedicated to excellent teaching in all its settings, leading discussion in classrooms, supervising research projects in library or laboratory, coaching teams on athletics fields, preparing students for concert or theater performances, guiding artists in studios. And so every year at this time, as it awards degrees to its graduates, the college also honors those of its faculty who exemplify teaching at its best, the winners of the college's Whig Award for Excellence in Teaching. This award is granted each year by a committee of trustees and faculty on the basis of ballots cast by students. It is the highest honor the college awards to its faculty. Let me ask this year's winners of the Whig Award for Excellence in Teaching to stand as I read their names. The H. Russell Smith Professor of International Relations and Professor of Politics, Pierre Engelbert. Professor of Psychology and Asian American Studies, Sharon Goto. Assistant Professor of Media Studies, Jonathan Hall. Associate Professor of History, April Mays. Associate Professor of English and Gender and Women's Studies, Keela Tompkins. Professor of Neuroscience, Nicole Weeks. And Assistant Professor of Economics, Michelle Zemmel. One lesson that I hope every graduating student will take from this college is that the accomplishments of people working together are greater than those of single individuals, however distinguished. Pomona College strives to foster collaborative work between students with faculty, and the chief goal of its staff is to enhance the educational experiences that take place on campus. On this occasion, we are connected also to past and future. The college that we see today and that will educate future generations is here because of the hard work, distinguished accomplishments, and generous support of past members of our community, the literally thousands of people who have taught, worked, and studied here, and the donors who have sustained them. We are particularly honored to have with us, along with faculty, students, staff, family, and friends, 18 members of the college's Board of Trustees, led by our board chair, Samuel D. Glick of the class of 2004. I invite all of you to a reception immediately following the ceremony on Marston Quad. I hope the rain will have stopped by then. Today, we welcome a new class into this great fellowship. And so, in each other's company and in the great tradition of all those who have taught, studied, worked, and played at this college over the years, let us now proceed to celebrate the class of 2016 and launch them on their way. Thank you.
In 1972, the Board of Trustees of Pomona College established the Trustees Medal of Merit to be awarded to alumni and friends of the college who have rendered outstanding service to Pomona or brought distinction to the institution through their actions or achievements. Thus far, the college has awarded 14 Medals of Merit, and today we are pleased to do so again. Richard A. Fass hails from Brooklyn, New York, one of 2 children born of immigrant parents. His father was an honor student, but never graduated from high school because of family obligations. His mother, Elizabeth Arger Fass, received her law degree in 1934 and retired at age 96 as an assistant district attorney for Brooklyn. She died in 2013 at the age of 101. After attending the Cooper Union for an undergraduate degree in chemical engineering, he headed west, first to the University of Wisconsin-Madison for a PhD in physical chemistry, and finally to Claremont, California, where he joined the Pomona faculty as an assistant professor of chemistry in 1969. The professional career Richard has enjoyed at Pomona is remarkable in both its variety and unpredictability of its course. All told, he has spent, 47 years at the college. I think that's a timed retirement, for the record. Initially teaching in the Department of Chemistry for 4 years. In short order, he was tapped for administrative service, first in student affairs, where between 1973 and 1990, he rose to the position of vice president and dean of students. Richard was then asked to serve as vice president for planning, overseeing financial aid, information technology, and a nascent institutional research operation. When asked what he did, Richard was known to reply, and still does, "I'm vice president of this and that." Wise, steady, and devoted to the college, Richard has, for nearly half a century, been a quiet force, an administrator who, for example, has helped to provide students, faculty, and staff with the campus technology on which their lives have increasingly depended. Over the years, Richard has also come to be known for prodigious involvement in Claremont and the surrounding communities. He is considered an impresario of town and gown. He has known every member of the city council, as well as city managers, for nearly 5 decades. There are few nonprofit community organizations that have not benefited from his guidance, including the Inter-Valley Health Plan, Mount San Antonio Gardens, Pomona Valley Hospital Medical Center, and the City of Claremont Police Commission, the boards of which he all chaired. At last count, Richard has served on no fewer than 15 Pomona College and Claremont College's committees and task forces. He's a glutton for punishment, best I can tell. Many of them focused on vexingly complex issues. He also served for many years as liaison to the Consortium on Financing Higher Education and as the administrator responsible for coordinating the periodic reaccreditation processes of the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Pomona College, it is my honor to present the Trustees Medal of Merit to Richard Fass, distinguished member of the Pomona College administration, tireless volunteer, effective and valued colleague, mentor, and advisor to many within and beyond the college gates, and steadfast champion of students and alumni of Pomona College.
My apologies, I have one correction to make. I'm not sure how this happened, but I left out one name of a WIG award winner for excellence in teaching. So let me correct that mistake now. The last awardee for the WIG Award for Excellence in Teaching is Professor of Mathematics, Johanna Harden.
Hi, everyone. I think I'm ready to speak, but also I'd like to pose for a picture because I know this is a very special position and my parents are right over there, so hi. Okay, so Buenos dias, bon dia, good morning to all families, friends, faculty, and staff present here today. My name is Jamila Fejeda Espinoza, and I'm a proud daughter of immigrants, a Questbridge scholar, a first-generation graduate, and a low-income Latina Chicana Brasileira who identifies as a woman of color. I stand here today honored to have had the chance to serve as the class of 2016 senior class president, and further honored to have the chance to speak to you today. I hope that many of you are able to find yourselves in the words that I have to share. However, I realize that that might not be true for everyone, and I'm okay with that. So before I delve in further, I have to confess that writing this speech and sharing these words with you has been a process enveloped in a bittersweet haze, a cathartic experience to say the least. I'll be the first to admit that much of my time on this campus has been characterized by an overwhelmingly strong desire to leave, as I'm sure many of you have experienced this during some point. And if not, congratulations. I arrived as a wide-eyed, eager first year, as most of us did, drawn in by the dewy freshness of clean-cut grass, an almost gluttonous obsession with the cookies you get after catering. I'm sure we'll have them today, you know, the ones that are oatmeal raisin, double chocolate chip, and my personal favorite, plain chocolate chip. I was captivated by sunny days and the promise of friendship around every corner. I was enamored by professors who earnestly cared for what I had to say for the first time. They were excited to share their knowledge with me, and my excitement was mirrored by the fact that I could find myself in many of the professors who I chose to align myself with, especially during my first year. As I stand here now, 4 years later, I recognize the tension that exists between the image of the Pomona that we're encouraged to consume and the realities that many of us encounter while trying to navigate social and academic spaces that honestly weren't made for us. While trying to survive in an institution that was literally built for people who don't look like me and for people who, looking at you right now, it wasn't made for many of you. I had to survive by depending on a lot of friendships and depending on a lot of support from the faculty here, many of whom have already won the WIG Distinguished Award, and I'm so glad that that has happened today. 4 years later, I recognize that much of the labor that goes into making this beautiful campus that we're all able to take advantage of is invisible labor. The work that goes into maintaining our grass green, our cookies warm, and our buildings clean often goes unacknowledged. I want to acknowledge that Pomona staff, housekeeping, maintenance, and grounds have always been there for me and for all of us in some way or another. So I'd like to pause and give them thanks right now. And in that same vein, I want to acknowledge that a lot of the people who are working so hard to make all of this possible they can't be here because they're working to make this all possible. So while writing this speech, I was, really perplexed with the idea of how to acknowledge the work that is so clearly visible around us, but that goes so unacknowledged and is referred to as being invisible, because it's clearly not. And I want to acknowledge the love and the labor that is put into our community by so many people who are overlooked and so many people who are not thought of when we think of the Pomona College community. 4 years later, I realize now that the professors I can relate to are few and far between. I realize now that I can more easily relate to, again, members of staff, housekeeping, dining hall, groundskeeping, and maintenance workers who always are ready to offer a smile Enola, and Ahai if they're practicing through the Draper Center's ESL program, which I highly encourage those who are not graduating to participate in next year. And I've learned of how Pomona College chose to acknowledge the work and efforts of 17 workers who in 2012 were fired because they were unable to provide proof of their working status. And again, I want those who are not graduating right now to keep that in your memory and to never forget the history that has come before us. 4 years have passed, and as a class, we have been affected by the defacement of a Black Lives Matter mural, the forced hospitalization of many folks in our community as a response to their mental health issues, how sexual assault, and further how our school has chosen to respond to those incidents of sexual assault. All of these have shaped our experiences here, and these are only to name a few. On a daily basis, many of us find ourselves at the receiving end of microaggressions, sexism, racism, classism, to name a few. So these 4 years have passed, and where does that leave us today? My hope in acknowledging that not all aspects of our time here has been what we thought it would be is to highlight the resiliency that I've seen in many of you. Whether holding an official title of not, such as like a club or an organization or even sitting on Student Senate, many of you have taken on leadership roles that have allowed others to come for you for support and survive in times of duress. Since I probably won't have a chance like this to thank people again, I'm going to take this time to shout out some people who have been super important in my experience here. And I know that many of their families are in this audience, so why not? You have wonderful children. Here goes. Montez, where are you? Thank you for always having that kind smile and for always saying hello, even when times are stressful. Jen, thank you for always having a safe space in your room to have your beautiful friends of color come and feel safe and supported. Sahil, thank you for always having so many random and super interesting facts readily available at your disposal. Thank you, Lucia, for transforming the Woo into what it is today. And for always letting me sit in your bed because we're suite mates and her bed is so much more comfortable than mine. Thank you, Caesar, for being the closest thing to a brother that I've ever had. Thank you, Ficker, for the times in class that you've thrown knowledge on everyone and left people completely speechless. Thank you to the trailblazers who came before me, many of whom, Ricardo, if you're watching, Cameron, if you're watching, and Rachel, if you're watching, all reached out to me before I wrote this and told me I could do it. So thank you for setting the stage for me and letting me believe that I could do this. Thank you to all the immigrant parents who are here right now, many of you who have traveled some type of border and at some point in time to allow your child or your family member to be here and to be strong and to graduate. Shout out to my parents again who are over there. And I know that's not everyone. And I know that you know that that's not everyone. But before you leave here today, please take a look to your right and to your left and acknowledge the person who's been there or not. At least in this moment, they're there. Oh wait, hi Adisa, I see you. Hi Della. Thank you for having such a beautiful smile and laughter. And thank you for always saying hi to me too, Della. But it's with this kind of hopeful and happy twist on where I started that I want to leave you today. And keeping in mind so many of the speeches that we've heard this past week, there's always been like a little nugget of advice. And this is the advice I have for you that's not from me, but from Gloria Anzaldúa, who is a feminist Chicana scholar. So, though we tremble before uncertain futures, may we meet illness, death, and adversity with strength. May we dance in the face of our fears. And again, from her, do work that matters. Vale la pena. Thank you everyone for listening. Congratulations, class of 2016. And if your family needs some type of translation, I should have said this earlier, there are headsets available on the aisles for Spanish and simplified Chinese, whatever that means. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I'm gonna give my family the same opportunity as Jamila because this is for y'all, so here's the pose. Okay. Thank you, Jamila, for that incredible speech. I don't know how I'm gonna top it, but I will try. Good morning, faculty and staff, family and friends, and a special hello to my fellow graduates. I can't begin to express how surreal it is for me to be up here on this stage and the significance of me taking up this space. A Black woman, a first-generation college student, a girl who grew up in an urban city. Hey, I even got a thick body. I mean, how many people up here do you see that fit that mold? But I've digressed. I guess I should formally introduce myself. My name is Ashley Land. I hail from the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. Some people know Chicago as the city of deep dish pizza. Some know it as the city of great architecture. Some know it from the news as a city with a gun problem. But I know it simply as home. It is important for me to start here as a reference point because where I am from has made me the person that I am today. One of the most important lessons I have learned here at Pomona is that a person must always remember their past if they wish to build a better future. I grew up in a working class, predominantly Black neighborhood on the south side of Chicago to a single mom who always instilled in me the importance of education. I would travel by public transportation for an hour every morning in order to get to one of the top high schools in the nation on the city's north side. My senior year of high school, I applied to this scholarship called QuestBridge, a scholarship for low-income first-generation college students that was meant to reward high schoolers that had showcased outstanding academic ability, but also the ability to overcome economic and situational hardships. You see, college to many people is just the next step in their lives after high school. It's something that has happened in their family for generations. It's something that was never kept from them legally or institutionally. It's just a simple rite of passage. On the other hand, for me, college was an opportunity to reach for something higher, an opportunity to make it out of a bittersweet city. An opportunity for me and my family to one day have a better life. Not only was QuestBridge key to me believing that I could one day become somebody monumental despite my situation, it was also my first contact with Pomona as an elite institution that I finally could believe was actually in my reach. My first couple of years at Pomona was love at first sight. I mean, what was not to like? They fed me 3 times a day. I had 2 awesome air-conditioned rooms my first and second years. I was able to go and come as I pleased without any parent supervision. I joined a multitude of different clubs and activities. I turned up for the first time in my life. I even made incredible new friends. Life was perfect. And although first year is sort of a blur now, I do remember hearing brief mentions of racism, sexism, homophobia, etc. And all I can remember is getting super agitated because I felt like everything was turned into an ism. It's all about race. It's all about class. It's all about if you're a citizen or if you're not. I was unable to recognize the systems of oppression that were beyond me and chose to be ignorantly unaware of the complexity of race relations and social problems plaguing the United States. Fortunately, during 2014, that all changed. What was that, Professor? I got a D on my psychology midterm? I feel so stupid. Oh, girl, I just don't have the money to go to the village for dinner. I have to buy my flight back home. Is media studies even a real major that I can garner success with in the future? Did my professor really just ask me to give the class the Black perspective on blank idea/theory? These are just a couple of scenarios that occurred during my time here. And although they didn't make me completely lose my love for Pomona and all it has to offer, there was also some sense of not belonging that I began to feel. I wasn't the academic scholar I thought I was. I was no longer able to hide my class background. I no longer had faith in myself or my abilities. I was no longer an individual, but instead a representative for a whole entire group. Even though I may be using my personal experiences to share these frustrations, I have a feeling that many of my classmates have experienced similar struggles and thoughts in their minds. The frustrations and disappointment continued in 2014 when I went abroad to Salamanca, Spain. I was often stared at for my Black skin. I struggled with my non-fluency in the Spanish language, which I often felt defeated for. And unfortunately, this all occurred during the time when news outlets everywhere began to highlight the police brutality and oppression occurring within Black and brown communities across the United States. Wait, let me rephrase that. News outlets across the world began to highlight a marginal amount of instances of police brutality and oppression within Black and brown communities, minus any amount of compassion, empathy, or knowledge of injustice surrounding these victims. These victims were not people with families that were mourning. They were transformed into animals and criminals used to be trendy and get ratings up. That's when I woke up. When I got back to campus, I heard from my fellow Black peers the reactions to their efforts in protesting and demonstrating in response to the violent anti-Black racism that permeates our society, which were inexcusably disgusting and horrendous. That's when I woke up. When administration then came together and decided that when they were being problematic, dismissive, and unresponsive to students, that they were just going to silence our demonstrations and invalidate our anger, that's when I woke up. When I was called a racist and a liar, when I was merely trying to advocate against the annihilation of my community, that's when I was officially pissed off. Pomona frequently prides itself on being one of the most diverse institutions in the country, which I agree is a very solid strength of the school, but it can also be a weakness. It seems like the institution brings all of these people together and just expects them to get along perfectly. At large, the U.S. is set on the ideologies of democracy, freedom, diversity, opportunity, and equality being what makes this nation so great. But none of these ideals can be achieved without pivotal justice. I watched multiple unjust homicides of numerous members of my community. I saw my community being annihilated one by one while I was thousands of miles away. I saw my Pomona community, the place I had called home for 3 years, begin to annihilate specific members from the inside, and this was unacceptable. That's when I recognized the importance of acknowledging privilege, community collaboration, and radical community love. Acknowledging privilege is an often difficult, disruptive, unsettling, sometimes internally violent process that I've realized can be uncomfortable for both the person acknowledging their privilege as well as the person calling said person out. No, if you sighed or rolled your eyes or sucked your teeth while I started talking about privilege, it may be time for you to check your own. But again, I digress. I too was unable to grasp the idea of privilege fully. I was unable to see how my heterosexual cisgender being or my blue passport gave me a wealth of passes and freedoms that other people did not have. I was unable to see how privilege is tied to power that we have been trained not to acknowledge so that some people can benefit more than others. I have come to terms with the fact that much of this is because when we do acknowledge our privilege, we become actively responsible for calling out those who take their privileges for granted, whether that be ourselves or others. This is where all my fellow graduates come into play, because time after time, we have heard that one thing that the one thing Pomona faculty, staff, alumni, and trustees can agree on is the fact that students truly create the campus climate. Pomona students are some of the most compassionate, mindful people that I know, who are willing to take action and hold people accountable for their words and actions and how they affect others. This includes having tough conversations at 3 a.m., taking classes outside of their comfort zones, being honest and willing to share their stories, listening to someone they do not agree with, and the list goes on. I've seen students create programming in spaces that lift people's spirits, hold others accountable, that challenge notions of how much change can actually happen, and that people love themselves and their communities the way they deserve to be loved. And because of this, it is imperative that I also extend some special thank yous. Thank you to my fellow graduates who worked at and mentored for the identity-based centers on campus that support and enhance the well-being of marginalized communities on this campus. Thank you to my fellow graduates who marched, protested, and sat in endless meetings, taking up time from their academics so that this campus would be a better place for us and generations of students to come. Thank you to my fellow graduates who never looked at staff like strangers, who always acknowledged that without the labor of departments like facilities, housekeeping, catering, and grounds, that this school literally would not run. Thank you to my fellow graduates who wrote thought-provoking pieces for the student life that inspired people to think about the social problems we all face. Thank you to my fellow graduates who created art and poetry to convey the pain as well as the healing that goes along with true community building. Thank you to my fellow graduates who have never forgotten where they come from, who stay humble and open to hearing others' experiences as well. Thank you to my fellow graduates who shared their stories and experiences even when they faced ridicule and critique. Thank you to Jamila Espinosa and Donald Abrams for helping your girl write this speech at 3 o'clock in the morning. And most importantly, thank you to my fellow graduates who were allies and upfront, even when no one was watching, when there was no chance of fame or recognition, when you were simply doing what should have been done. Genuine compassion is transformative. Before I mentioned a sense of not belonging here on campus, especially in part because of the place I come from and the experiences I have endured. Because of the radical collective love my classmates have imparted on me, I now understand that I no longer need this institution to invalidate me. Because I and my classmates have left endless marks on this community that will in the future lead to true radical change. I also mentioned before the importance of knowing one's past in order to carve a better future, which makes me think of my ancestors who made several sacrifices so that I could be standing on this stage today. Therefore, I know that me obtaining this degree today is not just about me. It's about my family, my community, and about using the knowledge I've gained from this place to fix the injustices I see in the world so that true revolutionary change can happen. Class of 2016, you are all already daring minds, compassionate souls, and incredibly talented people. I urge you to think about the words I've communicated to you today. Acknowledging privilege, community building, and radical community love does not cease after you leave the Claremont bubble. Displaying these traits is an ongoing process, one that can never really be mastered, and like a muscle, must always be exercised. If you have found yourself to be complacent this entire time, that probably means you need to exert these traits, and I challenge you to do so mindfully. I know that I am a part of a class that is special, and I cannot wait to see what impact you all will have on the world. Congratulations, class of 2016. Thank you.
Vikram Chandra says some of his earliest memories are of his mother, who was a playwright and screenwriter, seated at their dining room table in India, writing on long sheets of paper. Those childhood memories left a deep imprint on Vikram, the evidence being 4 critically acclaimed books, a film, and a television series. Those books have visited bestseller lists and appeared in 20 different languages worldwide, while taking Vikram from the classrooms of Cruikshank Hall to his own classrooms at the University of California at Berkeley. In his work, Vikram splices genres, crisscrossing Indian and Western cultures as he guides us through shadowy underworlds in his novel Sacred Games, or through the beauty of coding in his book-length essay Geek Sublime. His writing has been called dazzling, elegant, magnificent, earning comparisons to Salman Rushdie and Michael Ondaatje. But whether fiction or nonfiction, he floods the page with erudition, sympathy, wit, and humanity. Vikram has amassed prestigious awards on his literary path, including 2 Commonwealth Writers' Prizes and the Hutch Crossword Prize, and he is a 2-time finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award in criticism and fiction. Last year, he was the recipient of the Guggenheim Fellowship in Fiction. As one might expect, at Pomona, Johns Hopkins, and the University of Houston, Vikram studied English and creative writing, but he also taught himself computer programming and had a successful side business that put him through grad school loan-free. Trust I got your attention just then. In true liberal arts spirits, Vikram says that whether you are creating code or writing about heartbreak, you're searching for patterns and solutions. Both require passion and are ripe with possibilities. We are honoring Vikram Chandra today because of his capacity for helping us through those patterns to grapple with our human experience in the company of his vivid characters, luminous language, and audacious concepts.
Vikram Chandra, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Letters in Pomona College, honoris causa.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to the faculty and the board and the trustees of Pomona College for this great honor. It's always a pleasure to return to beautiful Pomona, this haven named appropriately after the goddess of fruitful abundance. I will be forever grateful and count myself fortunate that I was invited to share in Pomona's bounty. I am reminded as I look out at you that 32 years ago, almost to the day, I stood on the stage inside Bridges as a commencement speaker and told an ancient Indian story. I first found this story, although it was Indian, I found it here in the library at Pomona, and it has stayed with me ever since. As Jonathan said, since I'm a fiction writer, a storyteller, I am obsessed with patterns and repetitions, with leave-takings and homecomings, with beginnings and endings, and the turnings of wheels. So I can't resist telling you that story again today. And as you will see, it is also a story about repetitions, about leaving a place of learning. So my Indian story is a story about human beings and about the devas, the shining ones, the gods and the goddesses, and also about the asuras, who are the old gods, somewhat similar to the titans of the Greek tradition. These were the threefold descendants of Prajapati, the creator, and once, a very long time ago, they were students at the feet of their father. When they had finished their education, the gods and goddesses said, "Tell us something good for our souls." And the creator answered, but as he tends to do, he spoke enigmatically in the form of a huge crash of thunder. Within the Indian tradition, in thunder, people hear the single syllable, "da." So the creator uttered the syllable, "da," and then asked the gods and goddesses whether they had understood. "We understand, O God of thunder," they said. "You have said to us, Damyata, have self-control." "Yes," the creator said, "you understood indeed." Then the human beings asked, and they heard the thunder, and the same syllable, the. And the Creator asked them whether they had understood. We understand, they said. You told us, datta, give to others. Yes, the Creator said, you understood indeed. Then the Asuras asked, and they heard the thunder, the syllable, the. And the Creator asked them whether they had understood. And they said, yes, you told us, dayadham, be merciful, be compassionate. Yes, the Creator said, you understood indeed. And so the blessed voice of the thunder ever repeats, the, damyata, datta, dayadham, teaching the lessons of self-control, charity, and compassion. And so after today, after you leave this home of abundance, your place of learning, whenever you hear the thunder speak, remember, this is what it says. Be self-controlled, give generously, be kind. Thank you.
Helen Pashgian is an artist, one of the pioneers of the light and space movement. And as part of a small group of artists which coalesced in LA in the 1960s and included James Turrell and Robert Irwin, Pashgian worked in the linked phenomenon of color and light, utilizing materials that were just emerging from the aerospace industry. Whether working at an intimate scale or in immersive environments, Pashgian's work is seductive and destabilizing. Edges and shapes float in and out of focus, colors meld and shift. Her fellow artist and fellow sagehand, James Turrell, describes her as the light and space sculptor who spiritualized the material world. Think about that for a moment. An artist who creates work that simultaneously evokes experiences both sensuous and spiritual, and does it from the most banal and rigid materials, polyester, epoxy, and acrylic plastics, the stuff used in shatter-resistant windscreens and containers. In a major project for the LA County Museum of Art in 2014, Pashgian transformed that stuff into monolithic sculptural forms that seemed oddly ethereal, only to shock her viewers as they moved through that space when they suddenly saw a jolt of intense color. How does that happen? Well, curiosity, persistence, passion, and an almost preternatural awareness of the specificity of light in Southern California, whether that be an ocean daybreak or the intense light and shadow of San Gabriel foothills. When she came to Pomona, she was primed to absorb the teaching of art historian Seymour Slive, who emphasized the quality of light in Dutch Golden Age painting. And after graduating, Pashgian went on to pursue studies first in the history of art and then ultimately the making of art at Columbia and Boston University. Back in Southern California, she was invited to participate in Caltech's Artist in Residence program, an initiative that connected artists with engineers and scientists. It provided Pashgian with access to new materials and to material scientists. She recalls that the scientists working with those new polymers were shocked by her mode of experimenting with them in the studio, pushing materials to do things that the developers had assured her they couldn't do. That was in 1971, and she hasn't stopped since, asking the impossible from her materials. Today, she's coaxing wisps of disembodied color to float in polymer lenses. Being an artist doesn't stop at the studio door. Sensitive to the ways in which the natural and built environment combine to create a profound sense of connection, Helen Pashgian, as a trustee of the college, focused on preserving and improving this special place. In the Buildings and Grounds Committee, where she served for over 20 years, she advocated for Pomona as the college in the garden, and through design and architecture became an ever more distinctive space. Helen was and is the artist's voice on issues of the campus. Helen continues to work in what was once almost dismissed as a distinctly West Coast artistic set of preoccupations: light, color, and the phenomenon of vision. Those preoccupations are now part of a global vocabulary, and she continues to make the ineffable somehow present and apparent. Mr. President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my great honor to present Helen Pashgian for the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts.
Helen Pashgian, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts in Pomona College, honoris causa.
To you, the class of 2016, this is your day. In the brief time I have, I wish to touch on two thoughts. First, over 100 years ago, President Blaisdell incised some words on the stone gates of this college, some on the side of entrance, others on the side of departure. Today, I wish to speak of departure. They only are loyal to this college. Who departing? Today you depart, not yesterday, today. And today his words now speak to you. They are simple words, and yet, they are elusive, enigmatic, and full of mystery. Should you think of them again as you move forward to invent your own lives, they may change and evolve, even as you yourselves grow and change and evolve into the persons that you will become. This is your day. And so today, I hope that you will take the time to pass through the gates just once more. In the excitement of this day, even as you make plans to visit classmates in the near future, it might be well to pause and reflect. After all, this has been your home, as it once was mine. And even though you may return again and again, never again will you inhabit this place as you have for these 4 years. At this moment, you depart through these gates as an inhabitant one last time. So pause. Second, curiosity, that intangible quality, whatever it may be. This curiosity that has been sparked in your Pomona years will stay with you and serve you well. It will pay wildly unexpected dividends, even as it may take you to wild and unexpected places. Not only will your curiosity guide you into areas that most attract you, but it will also direct you away from wrong choices. You may, for example, enter into a promising field of study or a job with great expectations and excitement, only to find that what was most exciting has soon given way to boredom and exhaustion. You fear your curiosity has vanished. However, it is in fact still powerfully present. If you will let it, it will turn you towards new directions. But you will say, what might these new directions be? How will I proceed? I don't know. I cannot tell you. I am not you. But I can offer you a glimpse through words I have loved from long ago. Many years ago, the legendary New Yorker theater critic Brendan Gill wrote a review of a Broadway revival of Chekhov's Three Sisters. He said this: Chekhov's theme is the conflict that exists between the hope of happiness that rises unbidden in us, coupled with our total ignorance of where happiness lies. I would like to suggest that if you examine closely what you love the most, keep your curiosity ever before you, and work very hard. The result will be not just one, but multiple opportunities that will open. And be careful not to hurry this process. Time is your partner. You will eventually find that place that is yours and yours alone. And I would dare to further suggest that that is where happiness lies. I would like to close with a child's poem about curiosity, and I would like to dedicate this poem to someone many of you know, my friend and colleague, Professor Jonathan Wright. A more curious person one cannot imagine. This is a child's poem, and to a child, it is always literal. But to you, to the class of 2016, it is, of course, a metaphor. It goes like this. He stopped to watch a singing bird. The rest walked on, they had not heard. He paused again to watch a bee. The others passed. They did not see. A chipmunk ran across the lawn. He saw it hide. The rest walked on. Then from his hand, a small coin dropped. He did not hear, but they all stopped. Thank you.
Good morning. Mic check. Call me Black Psych, but you might know me as Professor. I run with Posse 8, and we rhyming for your pleasure, but we got you under pressure because your world needs improvement. We working in a movement. Si se puede, we can do this. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm a little out of my comfort zone. Good morning, faculty, staff, students, Mr. President, guests, families, class of 2016. My name is Eric Hurley. I'm a member of the faculty here at Pomona. I'm appointed in psychology and Africana studies. Especially germane today, though, I've had the pleasure over the last 4 years to be mentored by Pomona Posse 8 Chicago. BP8? I'm up here this morning to introduce Dr. Deborah Bial, our 2016 commencement speaker. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to do so. For a number of reasons, I've learned over the last few years to have a great deal of respect and admiration for Dr. Bial. For her starting in leadership in creating the Posse Foundation and for other things that you can read about in your program. Right now I want to focus on a particular reason, especially that I respect and admire her, and that is for her acts of pushing me out of my comfort zone. Let me explain. To me, this is a main achievement of the Posse program. It's the flagship of what are called cohort programs, programs that identify students who are highly qualified, but for one reason or another may or may not end up in a place like Pomona, and sends them here. Sends them here in enough numbers that they can form and maintain a sense of community and support, right? And that's the whole story, or the main story, that we hear and know about these kinds of programs, right? And that in itself is a magnificent accomplishment. But low-key, that's only half the story, really, right? Half the story. The second half, and that is not the part that, by the way, had me, for example, picking up a mic at the 2013 Posse Plus retreat and dropping bars in front of faculty, staff, and students. Because I'm really not that guy, I promise you. But this other half I see as related to what that sense of community enables in them, right? It enables, I think, the self-assurance to, and the sense of belonging to, and the sense of, and we often use this to throw shade on young people, but that sense of entitlement, right? You've been told your generation is entitled. More power to you, because that sense of entitlement to basically push us out of our comfort zones, right? Here and other places. So these 10 remarkable young people, you know I have to say their names. Bear with me. Donald Abram. Brenda Benitez. Dion Boyd. Vivian Carrillo. Hannah Durello. Jerice Gaines. Maxine Garcia. Vladimir Orduño. Thomas True. And Javier Vasquez. I love you all, I really do. These 10 remarkable young people and the 40 others who are here, joining to form critical mass with their 1,500 or so student colleagues, have done a fantastic job at what I call an essential and necessary kind of comfort zone troubling around here at Pomona. I think the dais this morning has demonstrated that, yes? They push us to see the imperfections of our current selves, reflected back by a whole range of used to be even more unusual around here identities and perspectives. And in so doing this, I think they push us to be our better selves, individually and institutionally, but that's a place where we get pushed out of our comfort zones. How? They join and start conversations in organizations that seek social justice in every imaginable and necessary way, by helping to mobilize the Pomona campus versions of what's happening in the nation and around the world. Yes, we've heard about it. There have been protests and occupying the faculty meeting and meetings with President Oxtoby and marches, etc. this year, right? And they've been doing it at a level, you have been doing it at a level, and now I'm speaking about all the students, at a level that makes me proud and hopeful for our students on our campus, but also at times rather uncomfortable. Yes, I'm setting up to blame you for this, Debbie. This activity, so much so that last Thursday, May 12, 2016, the Pomona College faculty amended unanimously the terms of our own tenure and promotion criteria to specify that effective teaching necessarily involves the creation of inclusive classrooms, where students applaud for that, it's a big deal. Where students of off-marginalized identities feel encouraged and supported to engage with course activities. This is a very big deal. It's kind of hard for me to say quite what a big deal it is, except to say that the faculty handbook is something of a sacred document around here and is never changed lightly. But we changed it. We changed it because of you and your voices. And our doing this marks change and it marks growth, but again, not a hugely comfortable exercise. I think my colleagues can back me up on that point. Not a hugely comfortable exercise. And you should know that a lot of students showed up at that meeting, those meetings, and occupied the faculty meeting, and occupied, right? And I want to tell you that their presence was a huge voice in that room, along with about a third of you who also signed that document, a petition asking us to support it. So let me bring it home now. While I, as Posse mentor, was busy encouraging them to see possibilities and feel entitled to all that Pomona has and to request what they need if it isn't offered, I also began to feel a change in me. I began to see possibilities again that I might have lost my clear view of. I may have spent a few years sort of keeping my head down and trying to get that next paper out and protecting my course evaluations. But I began to see and I began to desire to get involved again. I began to see that my own discomfort would also be a sign of growth. And like I said, I wanted to get involved again. And then the next thing I knew, I was involved in some bobbing my head to a beat ably provided by human beatbox Vladimir Orduño, and waiting for my turn on the mic after Nostra Thomas, MC Splenda, MC Queso, and Hannah D, a.k.a. High Def. And yes, feeling way outside my comfort zone. And since then, I've gotten involved in some other things as well, not least of which is, together with my colleague Fernando Lozano and several others, crafting and pushing for this landmark new diversity and inclusion policy in the faculty handbook. So thank you, Debbie Bial. From where I sit, your work has really made a mark here, as in other places, on the Posse scholars themselves, and through them as catalyst on other students, as with other students around the nation, and on me and other faculty and staff at Pomona College who are agents in the enterprise that is higher ed, as with, I imagine, such agents around the country. I do, and I think many of us really do appreciate your work in all its subtlety and magnitude. Mr. President, I present Debbie Bial for the honor of Doctoris Honoris. Thank you.
Deborah Bial, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters in Pomona College, honoris causa.
Oh my gosh. Are you guys okay? Thank you so much. I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do. And I have a wardrobe malfunction. My zipper's broken on my robe. Eric said it's okay. I'm standing behind the podium and you can't see it. Can you see it? Okay. You look really good, by the way. I know. Thank you, President Oxtoby, the Pomona Board of Trustees, the wonderful Pomona faculty and staff. It's an honor to be here getting an honorary degree with Helen and Vikram. And my God, the student speakers that you have, Jamila and Ashley, I'm so impressed. This is a good place. And it is pretty and it's cold, so I want to begin by saying congratulations to the class of 2016. It's a big deal to be here with your families who are sitting in raincoats and shivering a little, but everyone is so proud of you. I want to give a special shout out to Posse 8, who's graduating here today. I'm incredibly honored to be graduating with you guys. And hopefully you'll let me be part of your posse. I want to take a moment just as an aside, this is a complete aside from my speech, to acknowledge President David Oxtoby. He has announced, right, that next year will be his last as Pomona's president, and I would like to thank him personally for his partnership. David, you've been a tremendous collaborator and friend, bringing more than 100 Posse scholars to this campus, including STEM scholars. You've been acting as a powerful advocate. I don't know if all of you realize how much for the promotion of diversity in higher education everywhere across the country. I admire and respect you, and I know that everyone here will celebrate your tenure at this institution. So I think there's about 400 of you sitting out there, and you're on the cusp of the next part of your life. It's one of those really special life moments, graduation. But for the next few minutes, I'd like you to remember a time when you were much, much younger. Let me take you back. It's 2004, a few years only after 9/11. This is what was happening. George Bush was president. He had declared a war on terror. American forces were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. That year, the CIA acknowledged that there had been no imminent threat of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. This was the year that Ronald Reagan died, and also the year that New York City began building the Freedom Towers to replace the fallen towers of the World Trade Center. In Massachusetts in 2004, the first legal same-sex marriage was performed. The Red Sox won the World Series that year. First time since 1918, by the way. Google launched its IPO, and Ron Chernow published his biography of Hamilton. I don't know if those of you graduating today remember that, but maybe you remember that the movies Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban and Shrek 2 came out that year. Of course you might remember that because you were 8 or 9 or 10 years old. You were just a kid. 2004 news headlines may not be what you remember most. As a kid, other things were on your mind. I mean, think about it. Think about being that kid. Maxine Garcia, June Park, Montez Brownlee, Alexander Palmer. Can you remember yourself then at 9 years old? What you looked like? Can you all remember the clothes you liked to wear when you were that age, right? Did you like to have your hair a certain way? Were you tall or short? Isaiah Boone, Benjamin Cohen, are you thinking about this? Right? Were you shy? Were you outgoing? Was there something you really loved to do? Do you remember your dreams and what you wanted to be when you grew up? Who did you look up to? My guess is that people who were 20 or 21 or 22 were definitely people you thought of as responsible adults. Well, so this made me want to talk to some people who understand the profound responsibility that you have now that you're graduating. So earlier this month, I talked to 53 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds. I told them I was going to be talking to all of you and that I would tell you anything they wanted you to know. I wanted to find out what was on their minds and ask them what they wanted to see in the world and see what they would want by the time they graduate from college. I asked them what they like, what they want to be when they grow up. I asked them about what world problem they would solve. I thought, well, maybe they'd have a message for you, right? And it could kind of inform the responsibility you now have as a Pomona graduate, as an adult. And actually what they had to say was kind of interesting. First of all, they were excited. They truly loved the idea that you were going to hear what they had to say. It kind of filled my heart, you know? They each filled out this worksheet that had 10 questions, and there was this one little girl who shyly asked my colleague, will you make sure she sees mine? I know, I love that. Oh my God, it's so cute. And then we had this conversation. And they were just wide-eyed and open and speaking at the same time, and they were just straining to get a word in. And so here's a snapshot, okay? You might not be surprised that they like video games, animals, and meatballs. They like books, bubblegum, bunnies, drawing, ice cream, jump rope, and making things explode. One says, I really love my mommy and daddy. Another, I like to be bossy. When they grow up, they want to be a police officer, the best soccer player in the world, a doctor because doctors help people, a rapper, a DJ, a singer because I like to sing, a veterinarian because I love animals, and a wrestler because it's cool. When they grow up, they want to be the president because I want to tell the world to be happy and nonviolent. They want to be an inventor, a track superstar, a chemist, a teacher. Sound familiar? Yeah. One wants to do makeup and hair. One wants to work for the INS. The little girl who likes to be bossy wants to be a lawyer because she is bossy and doesn't take no for an answer. No, this is what they said. I asked them what worries them about their future. They worry about the things you might expect, big things that seem beyond their control. They worry about kids getting lost, that I won't be with my mom every day. I know all you moms out there. They worry about school getting harder, kidnapping, bullying, and hate. One little girl wants the world to be rid of all spiders. They worry about pollution, tigers and pandas going extinct. They worry about dying and the world ending. They worry that robots will take over the earth. I know, something I hadn't really considered. But they also worry about things you might not typically expect of an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old. I know that when I was 9, I wasn't thinking about the things they brought up. I had a ponytail and I had braces. I had a doll I loved. She also had a ponytail. With a knob on her back, I could make her hair long or short. I worried about the universe being too big. I worried about dying. And like that little girl, I worried a lot about spiders. But these kids, on their worksheets and in their conversations, seem to be aware of today's problems and challenges in a much more personal way. They knew a lot about Donald Trump. Of the 53 students who completed the worksheet, more than a third of them wrote that they were afraid of him. One little boy said, "No one should be sent to another place without their family." To my surprise, their conversation focused heavily on racism and hate. They worried that the next president will keep Muslims out or will deport my parents. They began a conversation during which they explained that they are worried that all black people could be sent to Africa. One said, "For me, I am worried that the next president will bring back racism because he's going to send all black people to Africa and then he's going to kick Mexicans out so only white people can have the whole New York to themselves." I found this heartbreaking. While they are picking up a lot from their parents, they are also dwelling in a place of fear that we formerly reserved for adults. It is possible that there is a shift in what kids think about today. It may have to do with social media and TV, the 24-hour breaking news that flashes by them in their living rooms or on their computers. The pop-up, blogging, tweeting, texting culture surrounds us with news flashes. They see it too. The television is constantly telling us to be afraid of what could potentially happen, from terror attacks to the next most horrible storm. We are quick to give up our civil liberties or run to the store to stock up on emergency items that we don't really need. Kids pick up on this. The truth is, there are many problems that we have let fester. My generation has, quite frankly, failed yours. Did we make the world the way you would have wanted it to be? I don't believe we have. These things that scare kids today scare us all. We are still fighting for peace, for equal rights, for equal treatment, for equal opportunity. Women still make 79 cents for every dollar a man makes. The United States Senate is 93% white and 80% male. And these are our representatives. The kids are right. Over the past 40 years, we have lost 50% of the world's wildlife. The kids are right. There's too much killing. In 2015 alone, those with guns killed more than 13,000 people in the United States. This country is far from the flying cars and teleportation they dream of. Our infrastructure is crumbling. Our bridges, our tunnels, our roads, and our schools need major repair. There are families who are afraid for their safety. There are those who want to come here but are kept out, and those who are afraid they will be forced to leave. And the kids are right. There's too much hate. A recent national poll that CNN did found that 49% of Americans believe that racism is a big problem. These things are scary for kids as they are for us, but we, have a special responsibility to make them feel safe. Not feel safe, be safe. I asked them about their dreams for the future. Of course, the future seemed abstract to them, but they had ideas about it anyway. They want cool technology. They want the future to be peaceful, caring, and happy. They want the whole world to have hope and faith. Their ideas were reasonable. One told me, I think the president should make sure there's peace around the world and you don't just start kicking people out of where they live and start sending them somewhere else. They thought there should be talking instead of violence, including in the Oval Office. They thought the president should just talk to people and reason with them. For you specifically, they wanted you to know that when they get to college, they want the world to be beautiful. One said, I think it's helpful for college people, that's you, to know that everyone has the responsibility to listen, be a good student, and clean up after themselves. Everyone has to use teamwork and work together. When did we lose these basic principles of behavior? Do we remember ourselves at this age? We were all there, weren't we? Everybody. We had imagination. Maybe this was when we were at our most honest and our most trusting. So what is the responsibility of adults today? First of all, we have to act like adults. The children explained clearly that adults shouldn't smoke. They should be mature, pleasant, and truthful, respectful and smart. They should be nice, they should listen, and please no screaming. If you have been paying attention to our current political situation, it's painfully clear that in this respect, we have lost our way. Second, we need to do all we can to protect our idealism. It is what is expected of us from the most important citizens of this country, little kids. In 2015, millennials became the largest and most diverse generation in the workforce. Researchers say you are idealists, and while some criticize this aspect of your age group, I say keep your idealism. In fact, do everything you can to protect it. It's a tricky thing to balance, acting like an adult and remaining idealistic, but you could do it. It's the only way to create a world where the dreams of little kids can come true. You're sitting here today at the edge of opportunity. You have so much power and so much reach, much more reach than any generation before you. You have the same tools that we had. You can work hard, you can vote, you can speak out, but you have a whole set of new tools at your fingertips, literally. And that can help make the world not only better, but a little closer to the 9-year-old's ideal. So I'm talking to you guys individually, right? John Albright out there, and Janet Herrera, right? Kira Sweeney, and Paul Carter, and Avi Sheldon, right? Catherine Fortson, Daisy Adams, Dion Boyd. We all remember being 9, right? We trusted the adults. You're in the same position as these kids, really. When we hit adulthood, we somehow see our current selves as separate from our childhood selves. But the dreams of 9-year-olds don't really change when we turn 21. Maybe you're a little more practical now, but your idealism is still there. Thank goodness. Today, you're graduating. And this rite of passage is one more declaration of your adulthood. You're now the adults to whom the responsibility of protecting the world is given. You are now the adults that these 53 little 9-year-olds believe in. There are approximately 4.1 million 9-year-olds in the country today. We entrust their future to you. In only a little more than a decade, they will be sitting here in your chairs. They will walk in the footsteps you place on this platform. It will be their turn. Today it's yours. So don't forget the 9-year-old in yourself. and all the 9-year-olds that are looking to you to pave the way. Stay close to their dreams and let them remind you of yours. You can do extraordinary things in your life and in the world. They need you, and we all do. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, Debbie. We will now proceed to the conferring of degrees.
Will the members of the class of 2016 please rise? Mr. President, upon the recommendation of the faculty of Pomona College and by vote of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Pomona College.
Now, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you, as you individually present yourselves, the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Pomona College, with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto.
Cole Conrad Clark. Danielle Burl Shickley. Ryan Folks Smith. Kira Matthews Sweeney. No. Dane Andrew Zielinski. Donald Ray Abram, Jr. Austin Seward Abrams. Stacy Rebecca Abrams. Daisy Elizabeth Adams. Tessa Alexandra Adams. Kayla Aguilar Rodriguez. John Alexander Albright, summa cum laude. Devin Patrick Allison. Nicholas Patrick Alvarez. Adiza Veronica Ame. Della Nda Anje. Oren Arad Neiman. Maria Laura Arciniega. Farrell Joseph Atkins. Margaret Shuyong Austin. Ranveer Singh Bajwa. Cara Isabel Bank. Natalie Ann Barbarisi. Milo Brendan Birisoff. Graham Larson Barlow. Michael Vincent Bartoli. Elena Eliza Basada. David Zachariah Baxter. Fikr Tades Bekele. Owen Winters Bell. Brenda Sashi Benitez. Laura Michelle Berman. Esther Chiedza Bebe. Angela B. Andreas Biekert. Roylance Lee Bird IV. Hannah Maureen Bishop. Anna Lynn Blackman. Suzanne Helene Bowden. Isaiah Lamont Boone. Sammy Kiprono Bohr. Dion Xavier Boyd. Shayna Perry Brady. Benjamin Ezra Brash. Casey Flather Breen. Laura Catherine Breen. Kevin Dylan Bryce. Gabriel Mark Bronstein. Colin Christopher Brown. Sydney Piper Browning. Montez Terrell Brownlee. John Michael Bryan. William Cockrell Jansen Buchholz. Emily Dorothy Verdican. Paula Elizabeth Burkhart. Reed Alexander Callan. Andrew Morgan Capron. Elena Amalia Cárdenas Munoz. William Daniel Carpenter. Vivian Lynette Carrillo. Paul Michael Carter. Lily Shayna Carver. Sabrina Ray Cash. Lazarus Halkias. Alex Junhyuk Chong, sorry. Emily Chong. Catherine Chuen Chen. Peter Hao Chen. Samuel Songming Chen. Vivian Chen. Wenin Chen. Rosanna Chang He. Jessica Chang. Philip Douglas Clayman. Ricky August Cleary. Benjamin Ezra Cohen. Ilana Ruth Cohen. Molly Ann Cole. Nelson Wayne Cole. Madeline Simone Colvin. Alyssa Noel Cook. Michael Allen Cork. Laisha Naima Cornajo. Madeline Carol Cowan. Molly Rebecca Calger. Samuel Austin Crawford. Blair Martin Crossman. Malina Cuesta. Gabriel Emery Courier. Aaron Burton Sirmuti. Jira Alexandra Davis. Michaela Lee DeYoung. Tatiana Ilyinishna Denisova. Peter Martin Durdane. Alok Abhijit Desai. Sahil Abhijit Desai. Amelia Yuyan Snow. Ubai D. Pamela Chiamela Diala. Nathaniel James Dornberg. Julia Lynn Donor. Hannah Leah Dorello. Kai Louise Norton Dowding. Samuel Wang Du. Kyle Dank Easton. Laura Christina Edwards. Lane Warren Epps, summa cum laude. Elvia Espinoza. Leo Estrada. Michael Aaron Etzel. Kieran Lewell Evans, summa cum laude, and Rena Gurley Archibald High Scholarship Prize winner. Gibson Hill Ferone Collins. Mariah Jane Farris. Julie Marie Fedorko. Jacqueline Fernandez Vela. Joanna Faye L. Finkelstein. Luke Robert Fishinger. Natalie Catherine Folkerts. Neil Logan Forsyth. Catherine Taylor Fortson. John Michael Fowler. Emlyn Aurora Foxon. Nathan Ari Franklin. Grant Hayes Fraser. Joel Clement Freeman. Alana Ray Friedman. Jerice Jamel Gaines. Brenda Liliana Garcia. Maxine Solange Garcia. Emma Caroline Gardner. Charmaine Isabel Garzone. Brian Michael G. Alex Jasmine Girard. Audrey Carolyn Glazer. Camille Louise Gehring. Douglas Norris Goldstein. Jose Luis Gomez. Daniel James Gonzalez. Pamela Fernanda Gonzalez Montes de Oca. Harrison Malone Goodall III. Alexandra Catherine Goss. Ellen Katja Green. Mary Margaret Groves. Jonah Bryce Bowen Grubb. Tiffany Gu. Sharon Rose Ha. Mia Ha. Evan Taylor Hamaguchi. Angela Chi-hyun Han. Song Lee Han. Elizabeth Elin Hansen. Sarah Devro Hardeman. Brett Koji Harper. Hannah Jane Hatchell. Jenna Catherine Hoffler. Mariana Elizabeth Heckendorn. Andrea Gould Hellebust. Janet Herrera. Emily Charlotte Hill. Hugo Bailey Ho. Maximilian Wolfgang Hoffman, summa cum laude. Cecilia Nolan Hollenhorst. James David Holmes, Jr. Gajung Hong. Casey Hobson. David Kwan Howell. Irene Shung. Ting Yu Huang. Karen Lindsay Huddleston. Brittany Louise Hughes. Olowa Maiwa Oyinkansala Ige. Mohammed Asad Jalal. Hiren Han Jun. Wanyi Jia. Sana Javari Kadri. Albert Ari Kakis. Jane Kong. Kevin Michael Kanapan. Nicholas Mateo Cass. Ida Baran Casa. David Kyle Katami. Alexandra McKim Kelly. Hannah Kim. Julia Shea Rian Kim. Minju Kim. Stefan Minsu Kim. Yin Kim. Kevin Matthew Knox. Andrew Norbert Kozinski. David Andrew Colon. Nana Kurantama Akuya Korantang. Anna Marie Kramer. Connor Samuel Cummerlow. Peru Queck. Joshua James Landgraf. Robert Kipkemoy Lanyat. Sarah Jacqueline Puilai Laws. Johnny Lay. Tui Tien Nop Lee. Brandon Kumabe Lee. Jerry Wenho Lee, summa cum laude. Warren Andrew Lee. Isaac Benjamin Levy Rubinet. William Schuyler Lewis, summa cum laude. Belinda Lee. Hannah Kuhan Lee. Wu Yi Lee. E. Lee. Jinyuan Liao. Boyu Liu. Matthew Allen Liu. Carolyn Elizabeth Long. Christina Elizabeth Lopez. Diego Tiso Lucero Lopez. Thomas Ray Lowe. Ryan Lucas Luau. Roshi Liu. Byron Samuel Maltese. William George Marks. Diana Martinez. Jeremy Martinez. Jerry Martinez. Melina Brooke Mastrodimos. Callum Lee McCarty. Sean William McCoy. Madeline Patricia McGoey. Allison Lee McLaughlin. Samuel Eli McLaughlin, summa cum laude. Alexander James Ray McPhee. Stephanie Priya Merchant. Daniel Metz. Cesar Julian Meza. Rachel Louise Miller. Charles Kusi Minka Premo. Reed Bradford Mitchell. Tashi Mitra. Alicia Pingjan Mises. Tatsu Drake Monkman. Lee Ellen Moonen. Michaela Baron Morissette. Christina Ann Morrison. Samantha Shenghua Morrison. William Cliff Mountjoy Venning. Noah William Mulfinger. Miles Alexander Mundy. Margaret Elizabeth Muntz, summa cum laude. Eileen Thuy Nguyen. Kevin Andrew Wynn. Alexandra Lynn Nolan. Yuki Numata. Jennifer Okonkwo. Paige Lauren Oliver. Kimberly Elizabeth Ona Ayala. Vladimir Ordonio. Aidan Orley. Stephen Joseph Orey. Edmund Amante Pakleb Jr. Maritza Padilla. Stefano Padilla. Selma Victoria Paquetchi. Robert Andrew Palmer. Laura Ellen Pandori. June 1 Park. Shani Hadia Paul. Kirsten Marie Peterson. Daniel Dragon Fan. Paul Dawson Picciano. Angela Camilla Pico. Laura Daniela Pico. John William Pietrkowski. Samuel Artley Posner. Woodson E. Banneker Powell. Simone Prince Eichner. Emily Frances Prue. Jackson Connor Rafter. Mark Edward Raftree. Elizabeth Brunhill. Meghana Rao. Johanna Marsh Rail. Taylor Wendell Reef. Melissa Elizabeth Ray. Hélène Camille Rees. Vicente Robles Jr. Ismerai Rodriguez. Sergio Rodriguez Camarena. Savannah Gwynn Rose. Simon Rosenbaum. Lucia Ruan. Jose Valentin Ruiz. Andrew Hinton Russell. Sarahi Genesis Santos. Andrea Isabel Sartorius. Catherine Jordan Savino. Michelle Anna Rose Schultz. Anna Pearson Schwab. Zachary Paul Schwartz. Sydney Roxana Scott. David Justin Sharfy. Ozzie Lee Sherd. Avi Peter Sheldon. Marley Rebecca Shelton. Sarah Sun Shi. Kristen Stephanie Silva. Alexandra Morris Smith. Erin Frances Smith. Megan Marie Snow. Lucas Minsuk Sohn. Liana Dominique Solis. Christopher Ryan Song. Jonathan Eric Song. Cleo Marquel Spencer. Vinay Srinivasan. Miranda Pomroy Starr. Kira Christina Stone. Bear Reed Strayer. Hong Se. Raul Augustine Sun Han Chong. Julia Ann Keeler Swanson. Leif Ahmed Sweden. Daniel Thomas Swift. Chihira Tamafusi. Daniel Charles Tan. Scott Howard Tan. Gage Allen Taylor. Cody Tak Vong Tsun Yong. Kevin J. Tidmarsh. Alice Cho Timken. Julius Ramon Torres Kellinghusen. Jackie Tran. Thomas Vin True. Nelson Choi. Eric Bjorn Vanstrom. Aaron Christian Varner. Javier Vasquez. Eric Francisco Velasquez. Olivia Ann Forrest. Hella Funschfedler Wall. Adam Thomas Waterbury. Wittisara Watanani Mitgun. Annalise Rose Waddell. Daniel Timothy Waynon. Ian James Welty. Archer Hale Wheeler. Elizabeth Josephine Wilcox. Carson Riggs Whitty. Elise Welty Wolf. Teresa Marie Bartlett Wong. Sophia Louise Wrench. Kevin Wynn. Sheen. Xiao Yu Yang. Ariana Yi. Lilin Yen. Selena Sung Won Yu. Andrew Wilder Young. Maria Ha Yun Young. Morgan Ann Yusel. Fionn Zeta. Ding Yung Zhang. Zhu Ho Zhang. Li Zhao. Nancy Chu. Marek Dominique Zorowski. James Marzola Waller. Ashley Sheree Land. Jamila Ferreira Espinosa.
The class of 2016. Okay. Good. Ever since arriving at Pomona College 13 years ago, I've heard the phrase Pomona bubble used to refer to the idea that here on campus we are in an artificial environment protected from the real world outside. I've always questioned that trope, since in fact the issues from that world keep breaking in on us in urgent and important ways. This concept, though, still came to mind for me in February when we screened the award-winning movie The Martian here on campus, together with an appearance by the producer, Pomona alumnus Aditya Sood, class of 1998. Most of you probably know the story of the movie. Matt Damon's character, Mark Watney, left behind on Mars by his fellow astronauts after a huge storm, scientifically impossible, but who cares, has to repair the artificial bubble in which he lives, providing for food and oxygen to breathe, and plan a trip across the planet to the site where a launch vehicle has been placed, so he can blast off from Mars, join up with his fellow astronauts, and return to Earth. Damon uses incredible creativity to fix the dome on which he depends for his survival, planting crops, monitoring oxygen levels. You, the class of 2016, have used just such creativity, together with a healthy dose of critical thinking and a lot of hard work, to help create positive change in this bubble that we call Pomona College. You have organized, protested, demanded, and met to plan a series of changes to make this environment a more inclusive and supportive one, and I am proud of all of you. You have done this at the same time as you have taken classes, written amazing senior theses, competed for fellowships, won games and championships in varsity and club sports, and performed music, dance, and theater at the highest level. I'm proud of the way that students who differ in race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, national origin, and political views have come together to make change. The progress we have made in your time on campus will be a foundation for the future. Thank you. But today is May 15, 2016, and the countdown is on for you to blast off from Pomona College and head off to Earth. It's here that the movie does not provide us guidance, since the distant green Earth on screen is just a vague but happy and comfortable place to imagine returning to. I have news for you. The Earth has changed quite a bit during the 4 years you have spent on Mars. Rather than the usual graduation ceremony platitudes, I need to remind you that this Earth you are about to rejoin has vexing problems that require your attention and activism. This planet is one in which the major steps we have taken to address climate change have involved switching from strip mining high-sulfur coal to fracking to release cheap natural gas. On this Earth, a black woman in a small town in Texas is stopped for having a broken turn signal, is arrested, and dies in jail. A presumptive presidential candidate celebrates an endorsement from a convicted rapist and takes every opportunity to mock and degrade women. A young married couple are driven by twisted ideologies, perversely using the name of religion to terrorize a community just 25 miles from here. A group of apparently intelligent men talk about plans to deport up to 10 million men, women, and children from this country. You must use the skills you have gained at Pomona College to make positive change on this Earth you are blasting off to. Whatever your plans for further education or professional engagement, find the time to organize, to vote, to attack the problems of the world with the creativity, the leadership, and the inclusivity that you have worked to build here in Claremont. This year, several inspiring speakers came to our campus and challenged us to act in the face of huge problems. Last month, United States Senator, Pomona alumnus Brian Schatz, class of 1994, talked with us about the issue of climate change and urged us to work both within and outside the political system to change policy. Earlier in the semester, attorney and activist Brian Stevenson gave a tough talk about our broken criminal justice system and the millions of people living under shocking conditions in our nation's prisons. He inspired us to learn about these issues and make a difference in changing them. And last fall, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor spoke eloquently about her own personal journey from Puerto Rico to New York City to Princeton University to the highest court in the country, encouraging us all to find ways to prepare ourselves to address the inequities in our society. These messages of radical hope in the face of what seem like insurmountable problems are what I want to leave with you today. They are reminders as well that, like Brian Schatz, Brian Stevenson, and Sonia Sotomayor, none of you can know, sitting here today, what amazing opportunities to serve and to lead change will present themselves to you because of who you are and the gifts and talents you each have. Like Matt Damon's character in The Martian, you will need all of your creativity, abilities to collaborate, and the habits of mind and knowledge you have gained through your 4 years at Pomona College. It may be through your creative or performance work, or your skills at critical thinking, writing, and analysis, organizational leadership, or, yes, to paraphrase Matt Damon, by sciencing the blank out of a problem. Each one of you has so much to offer. As you blast off today and leave this campus, I charge you to use your Pomona education to build communities that together can make positive change in the world. Congratulations to the class of 2016, and best wishes.